Hi everyone, I am Yashwanth ST, studying in SHS 3D session in Arvind International Residential School, Kunigal. Today I am going to summarize the lesson Life Process. Criteria to decide whether something is alive is on the basis of visible movement such as walking, breathing or growing is generally used to decide whether something is alive. What is meant by life process? The process in which living organisms perform their maintenance function are called life process. The basic life processes are nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. First we know about the nutrition. Nutrition is the process of obtaining energy through consumption of food. Mode of nutrition. There are two types of nutrition: autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition in which organisms prepare their own food. Example: all green plants and some bacteria. Heterotrophic nutrition in which organisms get their food directly or indirectly from plants. Example: all animals, fungi and some bacteria. Types of heterotrophic nutrition are saprophytic nutrition, parasitic nutrition and holozoic nutrition. Saprophytic nutrition: organisms that break down the food materials outside the body and then absorb it are called saprophytic nutrition. Parasitic nutrition: the type of nutrition in which organisms derive nutrition from plants and animals without killing them is called parasitic nutrition. Holozoic nutrition: the type of nutrition in which organisms take in whole material and break it down inside their body is called holozoic nutrition. Now let us learn about the nutrition in plants. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process by which autotrophs take in carbon dioxide and water from the outside and convert them into carbohydrates in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Its chemical equation is 6CO2 plus 12H2O. In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll give rise to C6H12O6 plus 6H2O plus 6O2. Steps of photosynthesis: absorption of light energy by chlorophyll, conversion of light energy to chemical energy and splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen, reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. Chloroplast. The green dots like cell organelles which contain chlorophyll are called chloroplast. Now let us learn about the stomata. Stomata are the tiny pores present on the surface of the leaves are called stomata. Functions of stomata: exchange of gases, loses large amount of water during transpiration. In stomata there are guard cells. The bean-shaped cells on either side of the stomata are called guard cells. Function of guard cells: the function of guard cells is to regulate the opening and closing of stomatal pore. Control of stomatal pore: the guard cells swell when water flows into them, causing the stomatal pore to open. Similarly, the pore closes if the guard cells shrink. Nutrition in amoeba. Amoeba takes in food using temporary finger-like extensions called pseudopodia, which fuse over the food particles, forming a food vacuole. Inside the food vacuole, complex substances are broken down into simpler ones. Nutrition in human beings. Nutrition in human beings takes place in the digestive system. It consists of alimentary canals and glands which produce enzymes which break down food into smaller molecules. The main organs of digestive system are mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine and anus. The main glands are salivary glands, gastric glands, liver, pancreas and intestinal glands. In the mouth, The food is broken down into smaller particles by the teeth and mixed with saliva from the salivary glands. Saliva contains the enzyme salivary amylase, which converts starch into sugar. Then the food passes through the esophagus in the stomach. In the stomach, the gastric glands produce gastric juice, which contains the enzyme pepsin, hydrochloric acid, and mucus. Pepsin breaks down proteins, hydrochloric acid, and makes the medium acidic and helps the action of pepsin. Mucus protects the walls of the stomach from the action of the acid. Then the food passes into the small intestine. In the upper part of the small intestine called duodenum, the food is mixed with bile from the liver and pancreatic juice from the pancreas. Bile breaks down fats into smaller globules. Pancreatic juice contains the enzyme trypsin and lipase. Trypsin breaks down the proteins and lipase breaks down the fats. In the small intestine, the glands, the walls of the small intestine produce intestinal juice. The enzyme of the intestinal juice converts carbohydrates into glucose, fats into fatty acids, and glycerol, and proteins into amino acids. The walls of the small intestine has several finger-like projections called villi having blood vessels. It helps to increase the surface area for absorption of digested food. The digested food is absorbed by the blood and transported to all the cells in the body. Then the undigested food passes into the large intestine. In the large intestine, water is absorbed and the waste material is removed through the anus. Another process is respiration. Respiration is the process in which a living being utilizes the food to get energy is called respiration. The energy released during respiration process is used to make an ATP molecule from ADP. Types of respiration. There are two types, aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic respiration is the process in which glucose is completely broken down into carbon dioxide and water in the presence of oxygen. In aerobic respiration, glucose 6 carbon molecules is broken down into 3 carbon molecule called pyruvate using oxygen. Pyruvate breaks up to give 3 molecules of carbon dioxide and water. Anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is the process of breakdown of glucose in the absence of oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. In this process, small amount of energy is released. In anaerobic respiration, glucose 6 carbon molecules is broken down into 3 carbon molecule called pyruvate. The pyruvate is converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide. Breakdown of glucose by various pathways. Glucose presence of oxygen in cytoplasm give rise to pyruvate plus energy. In the pyruvate, it further divides into presence of oxygen in mitochondria, lack of oxygen in muscle cells, and absence of oxygen in yeast. The presence of oxygen, carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. In the lack of oxygen, lactic acid plus energy. In the absence of oxygen, ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus energy is produced. Respiration in humans. The main organs of the respiratory systems are nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, lungs, diaphragm. The nasal cavity has fine hairs which filter the dust particles for the air passing through it. The passage is also lined with mucus which moistens to avoid friction and trap the dust particles. Trachea is supported by C-shaped rings of cartilage so the walls of the trachea do not collapse. Within the lungs, the passage divides into smaller and smaller tubes which terminate in the balloon-like structures called alveoli. The alveoli provide a surface where the exchange of gases take place. Blood brings carbon dioxide from the rest of the body for release into the alveoli. The oxygen in the alveolar air is taken up by the blood in the alveolar blood vessels to be transported to all the cells in the body. The lungs always contain a residual volume of air so that there is a sufficient time for oxygen to be absorbed and for the carbon dioxide to be released. Mechanism of breathing. When we breathe in air, the muscles of diaphragm contracts and moves downward, and the chest cavity expands and the air enters into the lungs. When we breathe out air, the muscles of the diaphragm relax and moves upward, and the chest cavity contracts and air goes out of the lungs. Respiration in plants. At night there is no photosynthesis occurring, hence carbon dioxide is the major exchange taking place. During the day, carbon dioxide generated during respiration is used up for photosynthesis, hence there is no release of carbon dioxide.